when we last left off, I told you that Missy had come in and said I could get my pump. I was ecstatic about this because it meant no more withdrawal. My pain was still going to be high because it took 6 weeks to schedule the surgery, but the withdrawal wouldn't get any worse and the pain wouldn't get any worse. And I figured I had handled it so far, so I could probably handle it again. Sorry, my dogs have decided to get settled with me. So after 6 weeks, the day of surgery arrived, and we were making the drive to Fremont, and I was taking selfies with my mom in the car and my husband, and we tried to get a selfie of all three of us in the waiting room, which is kind of a selfie of me and half their faces. And I mean, I was just excited. The night before, I'd been a little nervous thinking about having a catheter in my spine. But the day of, I was nothing but excited. And there were no nerves at all. So I get dressed out for my surgery in my nice little not so modest gown. And I get my IV, and I have the funny cap on my head, and then all that's taken care of. And my doctor comes in and says my white cell count is too high, and we would not be able to do the surgery that day. I was crushed. He said it will keep you on the same amount of medicine, and we've scheduled it for 3 weeks from now. And I just remember thinking 3 more weeks of this is almost hard to even imagine tolerating. And I went to see my regular doctor, and he sent me to a blood specialist who is actually, he said blood specialist, he's actually a cancer specialist. And my doctor, my regular doctor, said, I sent with your paperwork that has been your white blood cell count for at least the last year. But evidently they were still too worried about it. So but after actually looking at the paperwork, they decided it was okay to go ahead, that was always my white blood cell count. On the day of the second surgery, I headed down, not quite so excited, no selfie. I was extremely nervous, not about the surgery at all, but just about the thought that it might not happen. But that didn't happen this time. The anesthesiologist, who was a different guy than the first time, and a guy I liked a whole lot more, so that ended up being a blessing. He gave me a shot that I wish I could take every night at bedtime. And we headed into the operating room, and I don't remember anything else after that except waking up with my back hurting pretty bad. But that's because they have to start you on extremely low doses in your pain pump, because they never know. It's a lot stronger going directly into your spine. And mine is at my T3, which I'm not exactly sure where that is, but it's 72.5 centimeters long. It's a Prometra 2 programmable pump, and it's in my lower left back, and it hurt way more than I imagined that a surgery could hurt. Now, I've had a lot of surgeries in the last 16, 17 years, And it's been so long since I've had one that I forgot what it actually felt like to have someone open up your body and so it closed again. So, and all I could take was Tylenol. I couldn't take ibuprofen because it might cause me to bleed. And anyway, this one started healing really weird. I had 2 incisions, one on my lower left back where the pump was, and a vertical one directly above that where they fed the catheter. And the vertical one was healing awesome. The left one, after the swelling went down, we could still feel the pump. And it was like we could feel it a little more every day. And it was also scabbing weird, and it was literally, the scab was about that thick on my back. And I would show you a picture, but it's too gross. So, one night my husband went to change my bandage because at the time I was just using a couple pieces of gauze and a piece of tape. There wasn't any big deal about it. And he said, "I can see your pump." And this was on January 13th. So I should have been healed at this point, basically. I shouldn't have needed a bandage anymore. I wasn't wearing one on my vertical incision. And he said, "I can see your pump." And it was like, that doesn't even make sense. I don't understand what you're saying. We can always see the pump. He's like, "No, I can see your pump." I said, "Take a picture." And that big scab had opened up, and you could literally see 1.5 inches of the actual implant. You could see the porthole, you could, where they inject the medicine, you could see the pump. So we put a really good bandage on it and wrapped Cobex, I think is what they call it, all the way around. I call it horse tape because we buy it at Tractor Supply. But so we wrapped that all the way around with great pressure because he told us to put some sort of pressurized bandage on it. And we had to leave really early in the morning for the surgery the next day. When we got there, he explained to me that he was going to take it out and clean up all the infection, which I knew there wasn't any infection. It had never bled, it had never oozed, it had never, nothing like that. So I knew there was no infection. But he said, "I'm going to clean out all infection and then we'll put it on the other side." He goes, "Now, if it's really infected, and we'll just take it out and we'll put it back in again in 3 weeks." And I lost it. I absolutely just started bawling and begged and pleaded with him to please not take it out. Ever since I'd gotten it, they had slowly increased my dose once a week, and it was really starting to work. I was still having horrible flare-ups, and my pain was not controlled. But you gotta understand, my goal was just to get down to like a 4 or a 5 on the pain scale. I never expected a 0 or anything, so in my mind, it was working wonderfully, and the thought of going back to taking narcotics again was just something that I couldn't even bear. So I bawled all the way into surgery until they put the mask on me and knocked me out. When I woke up, he said, "Your pump is still in. It's still in the same place." He goes, "I checked everywhere and every way I know how, and there was 0 infection. So we just kind of dug a little bit of a deeper hole and stuck it further down in there." He goes, "And then we did 2 rows of sutures, and on top of that, a row of staples, so that it would be sure and stay there until you healed." And I can't feel my pump anymore the way I could the first time. So it's definitely It's definitely there. And after that second surgery, Missy raised my doses one more time. And I just want to take a minute to explain the dosing. It slowly lets out the same amount of medication all day long, 24 hours a day. But on this particular pump, and I'm sure it depends on your doctor and all that kind of stuff, you also get to what are called bolus doses. And these doses are where it lets out a little extra medication. I can have it twice a day, and your doctor will work with you on what time you want it. So mine are at 7 p.m. and midnight. 7 p.m. so I can enjoy my evening, and midnight so I can sleep. Now, we raised, I think, just the regular dose that day and left the boluses alone. And when she checked on me after my second surgery, and I went home, and my back hurt from the surgery, I'm not gonna lie, but because I had the morphine in my system, my back could hurt really bad. I could take a couple of Tylenol and it would stop hurting, as if I had had surgery and took like this big dose of oxycodone. I mean, it was amazing. And then one day I was sitting in my chair watching TV. I still don't move around much. I'm very weak. I start physical therapy tomorrow. But I had this realization that I had no pain in my belly at all. None. And sorry for getting a little emotional, but I had pain for 17 years. Pain I couldn't tolerate. Pain no doctor believed existed. Pain that I had just had to deal with. I went through withdrawal. I went through, and I'm talking real withdrawal, where a doctor just says, I don't believe you anymore, and stops giving you medicine. I went through all that, and for the first time in those 17 years, I felt zero pain. Not a happy, oh, I'm at a 3, I can live with that. And it was gone. And I didn't even know what to do with myself. I just waited for it to come back, and it just didn't. And then a couple weeks after that, or maybe like a week and a half after that, and I felt in my belly like what I would call a 1 or a 2. It wasn't really pain, it wasn't even discomfort, it was just awareness that, oh yeah, that spot still exists. And it lasted about 4 or 5 hours, and it suddenly dawned on me that was a flare-up. That's what flare-ups feel like now. Flare-ups that I used to cry through. Flare-ups that I used to have a heating pad on the front and the back and just sit here and cry. That was it. And then when it was over, I was back to zero. I mean, I was gonna say it's just short of a miracle, but it's not. It's a miracle. And also, with that second surgery, my doctor added a visiting nurse and a physical therapist. He got me a walker so I could do things before I was done with physical therapy, like go to the zoo or go shopping or all those things without having to use one of those mechanized carts, because I could sit down when I needed to. And he got me a nutritionist, but I only met with him once because my sister's a nutritionist. And I am currently still fighting healing. My bandage my incision for some reason will not stop oozing and or bleeding. Sorry for the grossness. But sometimes I will sit here and I'll either reach back to scratch my back and my clothes will be soaked, or my husband or mom will do a bandage check and they'll notice that I'm soaked through. And I mean, the bandage I wear is like, it's the non-stick pads, and then it's like putting 2 maxi pads on your back. And I soak through both of those on a regular, I wear 2 of them at a time, and I soak through both of those on a regular basis. Luckily now, my bandages are always covered in plastic, so I'm saving my clothes and stuff. Because one time I soaked through my clothes, the blanket I was laying on, and the pillowcase of my back pillow. So it can be rather dramatic. But like I said, it's barely hurting, and when it does hurt, I take a Tylenol and my belly pain is gone. And the point of this video is to talk about the pain pump, and it is doing its job perfectly. It's just unbelievable. So I'm sorry this video got so long, but there was no way I was going to turn this into a 4-part series. So I wanted to make sure that I told the pain pump story all at one time. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me anything in the comment section. And if I have the answer, I'll give it to you. And if I don't have the answer, I'll try and find it. Also in the comment section, let me know if you deal with chronic pain and what kind of chronic pain you deal with and what you're fighting. And let me know how you feel about a pain pump, and if you think it could help you. And as always, please give me a like. That's what gets me noticed on YouTube and gets me pushed to the front line. And also subscribe, because I'm still trying to get to those 100 subscribers. And I guess that's it. This has been Chronic Pain Journey with Susie Wolf. And I'm sorry, I forgot to say that at the beginning, but I am Susie Wolf. And thank you for joining me, and I will see you next Tuesday.